I just pressed the let's go live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, got to make sure the tubes are working, and it looks like they are. That's tremendous. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney. And today, we're talking about the Donald Trump search warrant, something we've talked about here before, but we're going to look at it again in new context because we've got some new documents to review. And you're going to see we'll spend the first segment doing that this afternoon. We've got Judge Beryl Howell, who is the person who signed the original search warrant that went over to Twitter. And now the full document is out, and there's some interesting pages of high-level redactions. In other words, the entire page has been redacted. And so we'll see what that looks like. We'll also see what Julie Kelly says about this, because she's mentioning that there is a little bit of a cover-up here. And this judge, Judge Beryl Howell, the judge who signed it, is no longer on the D.C. bench. She's actually off the bench. And she gave a very interesting interview to some people in the media explaining why Donald Trump is such an existential threat to America. And so we're asking ourselves, why are judges giving media interviews like that and then simultaneously signing search warrants that open up Donald Trump's entire Twitter account? So if you liked one of Donald Trump's tweets, if you retweeted one of his tweets, the FBI, the DOJ knows something about you. And so there's a lot of us out there who had done that. And so we'll see what they said in the search warrant and what the fallout is. We also got some reaction to some of this January 6th stuff. Liz Cheney has a new book out that nobody really cares about, but we got a couple of clips from this. CNN is very excited about it. And Cheney, may even throw her hat in the ring for president or something. We'll see. But the new book is out, and it's kind of timed right to align with the election season. And so we'll see what she says. We've also got Bill Kristol, who used to be a conservative. I don't really know what he is now. And he's out there saying, a second Donald Trump term would be a whole lot worse than the first term was. And so we'll hear what he has to say about it as well. Then Rand Paul is going to clean this segment up after those weirdos and then explain why he is in agreement that the DOJ double standards are one of the biggest issues in this whole country, saying that when he travels around the world, around the country, he hears from people and they're saying that they don't like this double standard, these two tiers of justice that are currently on display. So we'll talk about all that in the first segment. Then we're going to jump over to New York City and see what's happening there, because the Leticia James trial is back in session. We've got, I think, week 8 or something, whatever it is. I mean, it's never ending. And so they're back in session, and Trump was there this morning. I don't know if he was in court or not, but he was sharing a bunch of stuff on Truth Social. And on Truth, he was walking us through that the defense in the case is currently presenting witnesses from Deutsche Bank and from other entities that are showing that the loans from Donald Trump or to Donald Trump from these entities were perfectly normal. Nothing unusual about them at all, which kind of shatters Leticia's case. And so we'll talk about Trump's reports. We're going to see what Bloomberg says about it. Looks like the testimony yesterday was pretty good for Trump. Adam Klasfeld was there this morning, so we'll jump into the X scripts and see what was happening there today. And then we'll close out that segment with Judge Luttig, who is saying, what do we do about this? And he's going to beg a bunch of Republicans to get on board. He's going to say, now it's time for the people on the right to join in this unconstitutional partisan hack witch hunt and then join on his side. Of course, we don't expect to be doing that. And then in our final segment, we've got a final update, or this might be the start of an update, on Seth Rich. You remember this story from a long time ago. Hillary Clinton was involved in running in 2016, obviously. Seth Rich, the story was spreading all over the place back then, because this guy ended up eliminated on the streets of Washington, D.C., twice in the back, right? They took him out, man. And so he was laying there. I think nobody took his wallet or anything. And there were some rumors, some allegations that maybe he was involved in the leak, the DNC leak of Hillary's emails. And that caused a lot of problems for the election for her back in 2016. And so there was a new order from a federal judge. This came out. The order is related to a FOIA request, and it's ordering the FBI to provide what's called a Vaughn Index of what they have and what they're not willing to turn back over as a part of this FOIA request. And so we'll get up to speed on this. We have a lawsuit taking place out of Texas, which is where this guy, Brian Huddleston, is trying to get access to these materials. And there are something like hundreds of thousands of documents on the Seth Rich laptop. And the FBI, when we get into this, I was browsing through it, they want 60-something years. I think it's 67 years for them to turn this stuff over. So they're like, oh, no, we'll give you the records. We just need 67 years to do it. And you go, what? What is that about, right? If there's nothing here, if there's no, conspiracy theory here, as they say, well, then why can't they just turn over the documents? The FOIA law exists, and we'll see what the FBI says. It's a judge's order from Texas, so it's going to be good. And so that, my friends, is what is on the docket today. You can see we've got a lot to get to. Seth Rich stuff. We've got Deutsche Bank in New York with Leticia. We've got Trump and the Twitter search warrant. We're also going to zoom in on Judge Beryl Howell, who's no longer in D.C., see what she has to say. This morning, we had a members-only stream, and it was some good fun. We talked about Pelosi. She is being sued by Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and that is at the Supreme Court right now. So we read through that filing, and it's about masks, actually. So when Nancy was in charge, remember, she was fining some Congress people. She was saying, if you don't wear your mask, we're going to deduct $500 from your pay. And she did it. And so Massie and Marjorie are suing her, and they're saying, is this something that Congress can do? Like, can we just start taking people's money away from them? Let's see. So we went through that this morning. We also talked about the Republican. They had a press conference this morning where they were launching this new impeachment website for the Biden impeachment affair. And so we heard from Comer, we heard from Jim Jordan. He was fired up this morning, man. He was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, next. I'm like, all right, Jim, man, had some coffee this morning. And we also saw Jason Smith testify. We heard from Elise Stefanik and all that this morning. And so if you're looking for a little extra content, if you're looking for a little amazing community, well, then you can join us on our member-only streams. You can become a member on YouTube, or you can join us on Locals at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We've got a great community there. We do Membo streams in the morning. We do Saturday streams when permissible. And so we'd love to have you join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We also have our website, robertgovea.com, where you can get all the PDFs. So everything we're about to go through here is going to be available at robertgovea.com. We also have the various show reports that are the translations of the videos. So if you can't watch the full video, read the reports. Sign up for the daily newsletter there. That way you get all this stuff synthesized and consolidated and delivered to your inbox, all at robertgovea.com. We'd love to have you sign up for the newsletter. All right. And now, without any further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes on the day. Donald Trump had his Twitter account searched. Thanks to Jack Smith, he submitted a search warrant request to this judge. Her name is Judge Beryl Howell. She's no longer on the D.C. bench, but she did authorize the search warrant. And unfortunately, if you liked one of Donald Trump's tweets, if you retweeted something like I did, well, we're all a part of the search, because anybody who liked something from Trump, man, you're probably an insurrectionist, and Jack Smith and the deranged thugs over there, they wanted to know who you were. So we're going to go through this. We're first going to learn about Judge Beryl Howell, because she gave a very interesting press interview where she had a lot to say about Donald Trump. And this is the same woman who signed off on the search warrant. We're also going to learn that what they did is they tried to finagle this, so they didn't actually have to notify Trump, didn't have to disclose the fact that the search warrant existed. And then after the fact, they said, oops, that was kind of an oversight now that you know about it. So Julie Kelly did some heavy lifting on that. Liz Cheney, somebody who's been very involved in the January 6 cases, is also coming out with a new book. And Rand Paul is going to close it out by explaining Americans are really, really sick of this double standard. But before we take a look at this search warrant, the search warrant, as you can see, has the initial page redacted. I don't even know what's on that first page. It is an actual page that's a part of the filing. It's a 14-pager filed 11/27 as part of Trump's tranche of documents. This was filed in the whole first page. What the heck is going on here? Don't even know. But then we get the actual warrant, right? This is the original copy of this. This was filed some time ago. And we'll go through this in a little bit more detail. But I just wanted to show you this one right here before we learn more about her. Chief Judge Beryl A. Howell, United States judge. This is the judge's signature. She's giddy, right? Perfect. We're going to go get Trump. Yes, I love it. And this was filed back on January 17th, 2023 at 1:31 p.m. Looks like it was done by the phone. So we'll go back into that. But first, let's learn more about this judge because, man, she's given some interesting interviews lately. And here is something from Politico. This is the judge, right? She says, the judge who was key to the January 6 cases, she's out now, and she's warning of a U.S. authoritarian threat. Wonder what that could be. She says the nation sees a, quote, time of testing for the nation as facts are denied and disputed. This is the woman who authorized the search warrant. We're all on an FBI list now. Thanks, Judge, for that. Appreciate that. Says the judge who spearheaded the judiciary's response to the storming of the Capitol blamed that event on, quote, the big lies. And this is a little bit strange, right? The judge is like giving interviews now, and she's not on the bench. She warned that the country is in danger and turning towards authoritarianism. Now, as the federal court in Washington that Judge Beryl Howell once oversaw as it prepares for a historic trial of the former president, we see, hold on, let me refresh this. I think I accidentally deleted a paragraph here. And here's what it says. As the federal court in Washington that Judge Beryl Howell once oversaw prepares for the historic trial of Donald Trump on the charges of attempting to fraudulently overturn the results of the election, the jurist used a rare public speech on Tuesday, it is rare to hear this, to lament that many of those convicted for their actions fell under the sway of falsehoods. The judge said this, an appointee of Barack Obama. She said, "My D.C. judicial colleagues and I regularly see the impact of big lies at sentencing of hundreds of individuals who have been convicted for the offense on Jan 6 when they disrupted the certification of the presidential election at the Capitol." Wait, she's still on the bench? It says who served as the chief judge. All right, that's what happened. So she's no longer the chief judge from 2016 until March and remains on the bench there. Also suggested that the dangers evident of the day of the Capitol riot have not passed. So my mistake. So it sounds like she's still on the bench, but is no longer the chief judge. Now, she says during this speech, which makes it even more interesting that she's making these comments, we are having a very surprising and downright troubling moment in this country when the very importance of facts is dismissed or ignored, she said. She was at a gala of Women's White Collar Defense Association. She says that's very risky business for all of us in our democracy, says the facts matter. Now, Howell did not refer to Trump by name, of course, who's currently the overwhelming favorite to win the Republican nomination. And she made no mention of the trial that's set to open on March 4th before one of her colleagues, Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's also on the bench. Now, what's also curious about this is they talk about democracy. When in our democracy is there precedent of prosecuting your political opponents? There isn't. However, Howell approvingly quoted Boston College historian Heather Cox and her claim in her new book that the U.S. is at a crossroads, teetering on the brink of authoritarianism, which I think we've already shifted full gear into that, quite frankly. We have political prosecutions of political opponents, 4 of them, plus the weaponization of the law in many different jurisdictions, trying to do that to remove him literally off the ballot. They've weaponized New York law to file Bergdorf claims against him. I mean, it's kind of nuts now. They locked down the whole country. They mandated the whole country under the pretext of COVID and pandemic. Our money is basically meaningless now. They just print it out of thin air and spend. Now there's no cap even on the debt. So what are we talking about? We're living in a world of authoritarianism everywhere we turn. FBI censoring us. If you even liked a Donald Trump tweet, this judge who's screeching about authoritarianism is the judge who authorized the federal government to go in to a company's data, a private person's records, right? Ours are now being gobbled up by the federal government because we liked a Trump tweet, and she's going to talk to us about authoritarianism. She signed the warrant. Now, Howell received a champion award on Tuesday from the Women's Lawyers Group, and which she urged to help preserve democratic traditions by calling attention to the facts at the center of their work. She says, the skills we use every day to figure out what the facts are and what actually happened in a civil, respectful manner are a good model for our fellow citizens right now at this time of testing. So I guess we should all have the power to then issue search warrants for our political opponents. Is that what she's saying? Also receiving the same award Tuesday was guess who? Oh, gosh. So now we know what this was. This was a little love fest for the DOJ acolytes. And guess who's there? The judge, okay? Look who's there. Also receiving the same award, okay? The same award is the #2 official at the DOJ. Her name is Lisa Monaco, the woman who stands next to Merrick Garland all the time and does the dirty work that he's not courageous enough to do. So it's the judge who authorized the search warrant against Trump gets award #1. Right behind her is the DOJ official who executed the search warrant. What are you talking about? We're going towards an authoritarian country. This is it. This is it on display. It's the executive branch, the Attorney General's office in cahoots with the judge. Doing, getting their jobs done. So the award, guess who presented the award, by the way? Just amazing. Attorney General Loretta Lynch. From Barack Obama's administration. Incredible. Who hailed the Women Lawyers Organization for its efforts to promote diversity in the white-collar bar. Lynch appeared to allude to this year's Supreme Court decision, very happy about that, and said 2 law firms have faced other challenges. And so this little love fest in this bizarre, award where Obama's AG gives an award to the Trump colluders. Here are the people who signed off on the search warrant to go investigate Trump and Trump's political enemies who are being orchestrated through the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco. Incredible. So now we know that. Let's take a look now at the actual search warrant, because the search warrant, we've got some good details here. You can see this puppy is about a 14-pager, but we're going to go through the highlights, and a lot of it's just forms and redacted. And we're going to get right into it after a quick message from our friends. And now we've got the search warrant signed by Judge Beryl Howell. And you can see this is where she signed it right here on January 17th, 2023 at 1:31 p.m. Judge Beryl Howell's signature. Now, she's the chief judge, and so I misspoke. She is no longer the chief judge, but she is still a judge on the bench. And so here is what the search warrant says. You can see coming out of the District of Columbia, it is information. It's for a search of information that is stored in the premises controlled by Twitter. Now it's X. Elon bought it, and we're grateful for that because this is what was happening previously. It's a warrant by telephone or by email, and it says to any authorized law enforcement officer, an application by a federal law enforcement officer or attorney for the government, talk about authoritarian, requests the search and seizure of the following person or property located within D.C. And of course, the judge says, okay, I looked at attachment A, and the Judge Beryl, the same woman who's, kind of ranting about Trump now, says, I find the affidavits establish probable cause, and attachment B is the property to be seized. We'll reveal attachment B. It says you're commanded to execute this search warrant any time of the day because good cause has been established. It's a digital search warrant, and the judge is executing it. Boom. Signed on January 17th at 1:30 p.m. And this, of course, is going over to Twitter. They're going to say, hey, judge signed off on this, and you are now ordered to disclose it. Here you see this is the date and time, the return document, and so we'll fast forward through this certification page, but this is the actual property to be searched. And this is where all of our data gets gobbled up. So before Donald Trump was banned, and again, a private company, right, Twitter, said that Donald Trump was a danger to the country and deleted him from their platform. Canceled him, censored him, when we wanted to hear from him in the aftermath of the election. So they say this warrant applies to information associated with the Twitter account at Real Donald Trump that is stored in Twitter in San Francisco. At Real Donald Trump had a ton of followers before they nuked him. Here's what they want. Now, to the extent that the information described in attachment A is within the possession of Twitter, now regardless of whether the information is located in the United States or anywhere else, regardless of whether that information has even been deleted, but it's still available, like it's in the trash can file, or it's been preserved, they say Twitter is required to disclose the following information to the government that Judge Howell was so freaked about, for each account and identifier listed in attachment A. Now, all business records and subscriber information in any form pertaining to the subject account. They want the identity and contact information, full name and address, personal identifiers of everybody, including full names and other personal identifiers, all usernames, all date and time of each username, including those linked by cookies, all records, the length of service, the types of service utilized, everything, including billing records to extend into the billing, devices that they used, different user agent strings, web browsers, apps, advertising information, IP addresses, privacy and account settings, communications between Twitter, any person, including contacts with support services and records of actions taken. That's from Twitter. Now, all content related to communications sent from the Trump account, any communications, records, anything. Also, content of all tweets, drafted tweets, so stuff that was never even published, right? Stuff that he drafted and just left in the queue. Things that he favorited or liked, or even retweeted by the subject account, and all associated multimedia therein. They wanted all of his DMs, including all attachments. They wanted all records and other interactions with all other Twitter users, okay? Related to all other Twitter users. That's us. All users that he followed, unfollowed, muted, unmuted, blocked, unblocked. All users who have followed, unfollowed, muted, unmuted, or unblocked the subject account, okay? That's if you followed it, unfollowed. Now, all information from the notifications tab, including all lists of Twitter users who have favorited. So if you ever liked, all right, a list of Twitter users, if you ever even liked it, or if you ever retweeted a Trump post posted by the account, they got you. All tweets that include the username associated with that account, all contacts related to the sync information, all logs and metadata. All of this got gobbled up by our government, okay? A federal judge said, yeah, no problem. Anybody who liked that person is obviously an insurrectionist. So our government has us on lists now for this. On like a list, like an Excel spreadsheet. Your name, your username, if you hit that button, your federal government has your name on a list. All contacts, all associated logs and metadata, anyone who even mentioned or replies. It's crazy. And then they're going to lecture us about authoritarian government. And Donald Trump is going to come in and just wreck democracy. Now, they didn't even notify anybody about it. Did you get a notification that you were ending up on a federal list because you favorited or retweeted something? I didn't know that. I wasn't expecting that. So all other content, records, and other information related to the subject account, including but not limited to all data related to the use of the subject account, profile page data, bios, all multimedia associated with the subject account, all searches performed by the subject account, all information, including, right? It's reprehensible they did this to Trump alone, but they did this to 100 followers did he have? Tens of millions? So all information about the subject account, the use of their Twitter link service, including links that no longer work, they say it's all ours. Give it to us. Twitter is ordered to disclose the information to the government within 10 days of the issuance of this warrant. Give it all to Jack Smith and those deranged thugs over there. And then as we are seeing here, this is all redacted, right? And I know we've talked about this search warrant before, but this is interesting, right? This is a new filing, 1127, and this has another full page of redactions. This page, page 9, also redacted. We've got, let's continue, page 10, redacted. All gone as part of the original filing, and the whole thing is redacted. Page 11 is redacted, and page 14 is redacted. 13 is redacted, and 14 is redacted. I skipped ahead a couple of pages. So this one's gone, and this one's gone. And so the judge who is screaming at us about democracy was the same judge who just authorized anybody who liked Donald Trump's tweets to show up on an Excel spreadsheet somewhere in a list that got handed over to Jack Smith. So that's who we're dealing with. Now, what was also so nefarious about this was our friend Julie Kelly, who's a great follow and has a great Substack, by the way. You can go follow her at Julie_Kelly2 on the X platform. And she's got a lot of great content related to everything we talk about here. And she said this: one huge matter that both Jack Smith and Judge Howell are attempting to cover up is how both of them suggested that Trump was a flight risk to justify the non-disclosure order on Twitter. They tried to cover their tracks in later filings. And so this is a little bit technical, but here is what Julie Kelly is pointing out for us. In the original filing for this search warrant, the one that we just read, some part of the redaction that we can't see there because they blanked it out for us, whatever this is, we know that in other filings, okay, Trump's people have brought this out, and Julie's connecting the dots for us. She's saying that the government, in their application, in the stuff that they submitted to get the search warrant, which is going to be those redacted pages, they say that the application was based on this section of the law, 2705. But its proposed non-disclosure order, so in other words, the document, the request to the judge to not tell Trump that they were searching and rummaging around through his digital life, they said we need that non-disclosure. We cannot tell Trump. If we do, then he's going to flight. He's a flight risk, right? He's going to flee the country. So they included in part of their order language. Now they say here it applies to a delayed notice. So we have to provide notice, but we'll delay the notice because Rule 41 warrants, they include in the rules. They say, oops, we errantly included flight from prosecution as a predicate. So a lot of legalese here, 3103AB, 2705B35, blah, blah, Rule 41, got it. But they said, the judge, please don't make us tell Trump, because if we tell him, he's going to flee the country. He's a flight risk. And she said, you're right. Okay. Non-disclosure approved. But the government now, in a subsequent filing, this is Trump's attorney pointing this out, says the government now they seek to strike from the original request the language which can be found at the bottom of page 2 of the non-disclosure order. Okay, so they now want to strike that out, saying that Trump, we didn't mean he's a flight risk, because that's insane. He's not a flight risk. He's running to be the president. Hello. His plane says Trump on it. Where's he going to go? So it was kind of ridiculous, right? But they did it so that they didn't have to tell Trump. Like, it was sneaky as heck. So then the district court found that there was reason to believe that Trump would in fact flee from prosecution. But the government then later, once we discovered the Twitter search warrant, they said, oops, we errantly included the flight from prosecution as a predicate. And the district court did not rely on the risk of flight in its ultimate analysis. So now that the non-disclosure is not really an issue, since we know about the case, now they say, no, we didn't really mean that. But that's kind of what you use to get the non-disclosure in the first place. But we didn't really mean it, but we didn't rely on it when we issued the non-disclosure. So it's kind of very sneaky thing that what they did. And Trump's people know that, and so they're bringing that out. Now, that is the update on the search warrant. Now, something else is happening here. Liz Cheney was very responsible, I think, for a lot of this January 6th investigation, because she just did the investigation openly in public, used the power of the legislature to go and subpoena a bunch of people and drag in a bunch of people and create a very partisan type of essentially grand jury proceeding. I mean, it was a legislative grand jury analog that didn't have to follow the traditional rules and traditional due process that you'd find under the executive branch. So she cobbled it all together and then passed it over to Jack Smith. And now Jack Smith says, I'm only using portions of that, and so on and so forth. But Liz Cheney has now come out with a new book, and we're going to take a look at it before we hear Rand Paul explain that the DOJ's double standards are causing people a lot of concern. This is Liz Cheney, discussion about Liz Cheney's book. Oh, this is not Liz Cheney. This is a discussion of her book on CNN. Here's what they say about it.
CNN exclusively obtained a copy of the book, and CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel is here with all the juicy details. And Jamie, you tell me that Liz Cheney does not hold back.
She does not. She names names. She has emails, text messages. I think the book is extraordinary because it goes behind the scenes. And for the first time, you're hearing details about her Republican colleagues, about the Republican Party, and really their cowardice is the word she uses in their support of Donald Trump. And here's just from one excerpt of the book. She says, Donald Trump cannot succeed alone. He depends upon enablers and collaborators. Every American should understand what his enablers in Congress and in the leadership of the Republican Party were willing to do to help Trump seize power in the months after he lost the 2020 presidential election, and what he continues to do to this day.
And this was always about going beyond Trump, right? Trump is just the head of the snake, as they say, and they want to go after everybody. That's why they're going after alternate electors. We just saw in Arizona, they just indicted new people here in our elections. And so it is about really decapitating the Republican Party, but then also going after all of the other deputies, all of the associates who would be involved in the election. Here's another exchange, and you'll look at this guy. Remember this guy, Chris Wallace, I think is his name, here hanging out with Jake Tapper. They're all very excited about this book.
Yeah, Mark Green, who I thought was a true believer. I mean, some of these guys you can say, like, this one is just going along to get along. This, you game out who, this one's just being quiet, But Congressman Mark Green, I kind of just thought he was a true believer, but he called Trump the Orange Jesus, according to Liz Cheney. That's surprising to me.
And as he's sitting there, literally putting his name on objections to the counting the electoral vote in specific states.
Right.
Yeah.
The things we do.
Right.
And that sort of summarizes all of it. I also think she has, throughout the book, she talks about Mitch McConnell, how at first he told her that, he was in favor of the impeachment. And she watches his evolution and then pulling back. So I think it's this notion that they were all in the right place for about 15 minutes, and then they all went running back to Trump.
Okay, so you can see it's going to be a weird book from Liz. Question is she going to run for office, or what is the deal? What's the end game here? But this guy's Bill Kristol. I think he used to call himself a Republican or a conservative or have some principles or something. But here he is on MSNBC warning everybody that Trump's second term is going to be much worse. Now, we've seen a lot of this language, okay? And I continue to go through here because it's fun to kind of lampoon these people and make fun of them and how weird and strange they are. But yesterday we had some woman screaming about Hitler, right? About Trump. And we had another story, I think, on our members only stream where they were talking about Trump is going to be shooting people at the border. And that this is like Nazi 2.0, and like really, getting very aggressive. And so you ask yourself, if that is what these people believe, what are they willing to do to stop this man from taking power? And we're watching it, right? They're wrecking the justice system. They are shattering 234 years of historical precedent. They are diminishing the credibility of every government institution that they touch, all because they're petrified of this guy. And so it begs the question, what else are they willing to do? Here's Bill.
Bannon is Trump's most important guide and counselor right now. Bannon is the center of MAGA. And if you think hard about what a Trump second term looks like, it is much worse than a Trump first term. Trump first term, he was going to fix the problems. He was a businessman. He was going to do this. He did a lot of bad things, don't get me wrong, Muslim ban, really a lot of bad, dangerous things. But there were people who stopped him, including, as you discussed earlier, Mike Pence at the end of the day on January 6th. But Bill Barr, Mike Esper, all these people weren't quite willing to go that last mile. There's going to be no Mike Pence in the next administration. No Bill Barr, no Esper.
No, and that's an important alert you're sounding.
Yeah, good. That's perfect. That's great. So Trump will have free reign, not going to have any of the old deep state acolytes alongside, and it should be free reign. We're looking forward to it. I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, if we're going to weaponize the government, I'd rather have our guy in charge of it than their guy, obviously. So here's Rand Paul, who is lamenting the double standards that the DOJ is employing. And I wish that our country wasn't going this direction. I mean, I prefer a country with a functional judicial system, not one that's weaponized against political opponents. That's really tyranny and third world nonsense. But here we are. But as I said, if they're going to be doing it, if they're going to break the seal in case of emergency, break the glass, well, rather have our guy in control of the wheel. So this is Rand Paul explaining what I think a lot of Americans are recognizing. Every time they indict Trump, every time there's a new indictment of Arizona election officials or Georgia officials or Michigan or more J6ers get rounded up or whatever, people realize there are double standards. You've got cocaine in the White House. You've got excuses for Joe Biden's multiple documents. You see people like Jamal Bowman pulling fire alarms and evacuating Congress. You see protests taking place in the halls of the Capitol in various scenes, and no charges for those people. But the right, every time they even so much as walk across the street, boom, jaywalking and treason. So this is Rand Paul hammering it home. this is, I think, what is going to have some real consequence in the next election. People don't like cheaters and bullies.
To me, what I hear more than anything else as I travel around the country is people are worried about the justice not being meted out equally, about there being two standards of justice, that if you worked in the Trump administration, you're yanked out in your underwear with 17 FBI agents. If you work for Biden, or if you happen to be related to Biden, nothing really happens to you. People are worried about donating to campaigns. People are worried about working in campaigns. They're worried about a double standard. There was a time in our country when equal protection under the law was a big flaw in our country, where there were people who weren't treated equally under the law based on their race. We got past that, but we almost had a civil war in the midst of it. People were very unhappy about being treated differently. Now it's not about the color of your skin so much as the shade of your ideology.
Good comments from Rand. And I think that he's right about this. And people at a base level, at a human level, don't like cheaters, don't like bullies. And that's what we see out of one political party in this country. And there will probably be consequences for them at the election. We certainly hope that people turn out in droves. But that's what our government is doing. Looking at who you like, looking at who you retweet, putting you on a big spreadsheet and monitoring you for insurrectionary behavior because you might support a candidate that they don't endorse. And so we'll be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for visiting robertgovea.com to sign up for our daily newsletter. If you want access to the PDFs and everything we just covered, you'll find it there at robertgovea.com. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you here on the next one. All right, my friends. Now, we're hopping on a plane. We're jumping over to New York City. And let's see what is happening in the trial of Letitia James. Leticia James' civil trial seemingly goes off the rails when Donald Trump and his defense bring forward a witness from the banks. The banks say everything we did with Donald Trump and the Trump Organization was pretty above board. Nothing really strange or nefarious there. Not even unusual. The bank does their own due diligence. Even if Trump says that his assets are worth something, we're going to verify it. Why? Because we're a bank. And so we're going to go through what happened there in New York. We've got a couple days to get caught up on. We're going to jump into the X scripts from Adam Klasfeld. You can follow him at Klasfeld Reports. But we're going to get up to speed from Bloomberg and from Trump, because Trump is also sharing some updates on Truth Social. And here's what he is posting over there. You see, this one came out November 29, 10:55 a.m. The day of this recording. He's giving us updates from the various news entities, saying that CNN Politics posted the following. Said Williams, somebody who's on the stand, said Deutsche Bank, this is Trump's witness, offers flexible loan terms to clients like Trump to benefit their business strategy to, quote, this is from CNN, grow their non-credit relationship with the firm, saying that they prioritize high net worth clients' broader relationship with the bank. Okay, so Trump carries more than just his assets. At the end of Williams' testimony, this is from CNN, this person's on the stand in the trial, Trump's attorney, Christopher Keese, renewed a motion for a directed verdict, saying, Judge, clearly you heard from somebody that we've been talking about here. They say it's no problem at all. He renewed a motion for a directed verdict and saying that the case needs to be thrown out against Trump and the company. He said, Your Honor, what you just heard from Williams confirms that the bank had no problems with the loans to the Trump Organization. And Trump's lawyer Keese also cited testimony from the banker that large changes to net worth were not unusual. There are ebbs and flows. Now, the banker's testimony proves that there was no intent to defraud and no materiality to any of the alleged discrepancies in Trump's personal financial statements submitted to the bank, is something that Christopher Keese added. Now, the bank made the decision based on its own analysis, is what Christopher Keese argued to the judge. Now, we'll go back into that. We'll zoom in on that here in a little bit. Trump also posted this, said that CNN said, quote, it's not unusual or atypical for any clients to provide financial statements to be adjusted to this level to this extent. Not unusual. Not. The people who are in the bank. Says this person, he testified in the New York civil fraud trial. Williams was involved in loans for the Trump Organization loan assets like the old post office, the Doral Golf Resort and Spa, and Trump International Hotel in Chicago, all properties we talked about in this trial. That guy often signed credit reports related to the loans. So he came in, testified on Tuesday, and his testimony this is CNN Politics, reinforced Trump's defense argument that the lender was not defrauded. Trump didn't defraud anybody, and that bank personnel conducted a due diligence process that did not rely on Trump's personal financial statements. So Trump didn't commit fraud. He shared this from ABC News, saying that Williams reported both a net worth and investable assets well in excess of our minimum requirements. Yeah, I looked at the documents. Yeah, no, I mean, a ton of money, billionaire. So we got plenty, confirming that the bank set the interest rate for Trump's commercial loans at 2 to 2.5%. Now, the testimony also appeared to bolster Trump's arguments that his lenders did their own due diligence, because the argument was that Trump signed fraudulent documents. He said, these are my assets, and he overvalued them. And the bank just looked at it and they said, well, thank you for that. I guess here's a $1 billion. No, they obviously did their due diligence, and it diminished the importance of the financial statements, the statements of financial conditions that have been the center of this case. And finally, from Trump, he shares this from ABC. He says, was an event of default ever declared by Deutsche Banks on the loan? Question. Trump's lawyer hops up to Mr. Williams. Sir, was there ever an event of a default? Anybody ever default on any loans by Deutsche Bank to Trump? Williams says no. So Williams then slam dunk. Christopher Keese jumps up. He said, Your Honor, this witness has again testified the bank did its own due diligence. He just said right here in court that they were not defrauded by Trump's statements of financial condition. This is a subjective exercise. There isn't a right answer. There isn't an aha, you picked the wrong number. This is it. The bank is in relationship, and it's their job to make these determinations. It's not Attorney General Tishy's job to insert herself into a private transaction 10 years later. He said it. He's the bank. He's the other party here. And we'll see what Judge Engeron says. Now, that is from Donald Trump. Now, let's jump over to Bloomberg and see what they say about this, because there is more to this. And I'm not logged in. Let me make sure I can get logged in here. Hang on. Let's log in. They logged me out. We got to get logged in on this. I'm logged in on the other. Wait, there we are. Hello. Load up your article, please. We're live right now. Please work. There it is. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Bloomberg. All right. So here it is. So from Bloomberg, they say the Deutsche Bank executive testifies loan to Trump wasn't unusual. This is even from Bloomberg. And the bank disputed Trump's net worth. Now, they had other people in the courtroom, and so there's a nice article here. It says, an executive gave testimony that could bolster Donald Trump's defense in his civil fraud trial. David Williams is the guy who is on the stand. He worked for at least one of 3 loans that Deutsche Bank made to Trump in the years before he was elected president. He came out on Tuesday and said, it's not atypical. He said, I'm sorry, it's atypical, but not entirely unusual for the bank to cut a client's stated asset value by 50% and approve a loan anyway, as it did with Trump. So Trump comes in, he could say, yeah, Mar-a-Lago's worth $500 million. They say, or let me say $2 billion. They say, no, it's worth $1 billion, but here's your loan. Yeah, it's fine. Not a big deal. So question came, is the bank capable of reaching its own judgment based on the evaluation that it makes of the guarantor's financial condition? Jesus Suarez asked him. In other words, do you guys know what you're doing at all? Can you do your own due diligence before you give people millions of dollars? Can you evaluate what a guarantor tells you? He says, certainly, yes, of course. We're not idiots here. What do you think we are? Now, the suit brought last year was brought by Tishy. She said that Trump overvalued his assets, which, again, the bank doesn't even care about. He just testified. No, we'll cut it in half and still give him a loan. It's our job to do that. Trump is scheduled now to take the witness stand on December 11th, and we'll be here to cover that, so please be subscribed. Here we learn that Kevin Wallace, a lawyer for James, for Tishy, told the judge at the end of the day that Wallace's testimony doesn't undercut our case. He says, our trial doesn't hinge on whether Deutsche Bank was a victim. We don't care if they're a victim. It's whether Trump knowingly created and used false financial documents, which is just crazy. that he is literally, like, they're prosecuting a victimless crime, right? Like Deutsche Bank doesn't even think that they're a victim. He says the idea that you can't lie to a bank is pretty well established. And he says it's not a lie, it's an interpretation, right? Trump has it as an asset evaluation. He thinks it's worth something. They don't. That's fair. That's business. So Deutsche Bank loaned Trump hundreds of millions of dollars in various properties, Miami, Chicago, Washington. They say that Deutsche Bank cut his stated net worth from about 4.2 to 2.3 billion. He said, I'm worth 4.2. They said, no, you're not. You're worth 2.3. He says, okay, maybe. That was an internal bank credit memo used as evidence in the case. But the same documents show that the bank approved the loans anyway because it expected them to generate a profit based on Trump's history of success. They say, yeah, well, it sounds like it's a good deal for us. So Trump denies any wrongdoing, and they are bringing in additional people. He's calling to the stand this week, and we're going to jump into today's excerpt. 4 current and former Deutsche Bank employees, including this person called Rosemary Vrablic, as part of his case. The testimony could undermine Tishy's portrayal of Deutsche Bank as Trump's biggest victim. But of all of the bank executives called to by the defense to testify, they'll be cross-examined, and we'll see what Tishy does with it. Now, under questioning by Suarez, Williams said the bank always reviews a client's net worth. So when Trump comes in, he says, I'm worth 100 trillion. Do you believe that? And he says, well, no, we always do our due diligence. Now, as part of our due diligence, we subject the client's asset value to adjustments. It's part of our underwriting process. We apply it to every client, regardless of what's reported, because they're a bank. Now, it's a difference of opinion in asset question. Sir, is a difference of opinion in asset values between what the client tells you and what the bank, is that a disqualifying factor to extend credit? Like, do you guys get offended? Do you say, you lied to us, Trump? Huh? You're not worth 4 billion. We're not going to do business with a liar, right? Did Trump try to defraud you, in other words? Do you feel like you were defrauded? He says, no. If there's a difference of opinion, no, we don't disqualify them. Why not? He says, it's just a difference of opinion. Bingo. I think we expect clients to provide information to be accurate. But Williams added that the financial statements are made largely relying on the use of estimates. Isn't that nice? It's a bank. So there are no victims. In earlier testimony by Trump and his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, they took the stand. They all argued that no banks had been victimized by any of these assets. In fact, Deutsche Bank made millions in interest that they loaned. They also argued that his valuation of assets, they also got a boost from the Trump name. Leticia, she said that no, Trump lied. And there's 6 claims that are being investigated, saying that there was illegal profit from Trump. Now, Williams said, they questioned to him, sir, are you aware of any breaches by Trump on these loans? He said, no, not aware of any breaches. But during cross-examination, Williams was shown internal bank documents. Oh, have you seen these, sir? Referencing at least 2 breaches related to his commitments to cash flow. The documents show Trump cured the breaches. Okay, maybe it was late on something. One was related to, they said you have to have a certain amount of money in an account. And he didn't have the money in the account or something, and so he remedied it. Put it back in there, move the money over. So he said, Williams said, no, there's nothing particularly unusual about how they got back into compliance. He said, no, our bank was satisfied with the resolution, so they're good. Okay, any further questions? No. So after he was excused as a witness, Christopher Keese asked the judge, said, I want an immediate verdict, a directed verdict, Your Honor. Testimony from Deutsche Bank shows that the state here, their claims that there was an asset inflation, that it was material to the lender's decision is totally moot. You heard from the bank itself. It says the bank had no problem at all with a $2 billion difference or a $3 billion difference. No one cares. Large changes to net worth are not unusual. There's been no demonstration here from Tish of any materiality at all. Engeron said, I'm going to take that under advisement. I'll rule on that at a later time. But he says, I'm not convinced by the argument. He says, the mere fact that lenders were happy doesn't mean that the statute wasn't violated. So it could still be illegal, even though nobody actually complained about it. Here was another angle from Courthouse News who was also there. And I think we got most of this in the prior articles. He says, yes, the bank is certainly capable of making assessments of Trump's wealth. Doesn't matter if it's 2.65 or 4.98 billion. Not unusual for a client's financial statements to be adjusted to this level. Also heard by eBay over on Courthouse News. And so now that we know what happened in the day preceding, let's jump into today's activities, courtesy of Klasfeld Reports, who you can follow on the X at Klasfeld Reports, and he does great legal reporting over for The Messenger. And he says today, good morning from New York. Now, Trump's defense team continues to call Deutsche Bank-related witnesses to the stand. The first one they called today is Rosemary Vrablik, a key figure to the bank's introductions to the Trumps. Now, Vrablik's on the stand, and they say, Miss Vrablik, you promised to tell the truth, told you not to tell you. Yes, I do. All right, please be seated. Can you tell us about your background here, Miss Vrablik? She says, certainly. I've been working with this bank for quite some time. In fact, I'm over at the Private Wealth Management Division, the PWM division. You may have heard of it. She says, yeah. Well, how did I get started with the Trump family? Well, it goes back quite a ways, I'd say. It started when I first got a phone call. Jared Kushner from the Trump Organization gave us a phone call. He says, hey, Vrablik, can you help us out with this deal? We're looking for a bid on a property called the Doral in Florida. And they said, well, that's interesting. So you'd remember some emails, right, that you sent back and forth. She says, yeah, probably would. Well, I want to recall this email for you. This one is dated November 29, 2021. Ms. Vrablik, it says here that you sent an email to a fellow Deutsche Bank executive called Marcus Mitchell. Do you recall this? And she looks, yeah, I recall that. What does this say here on the screen? It says, we are whale hunting. We are whale hunting. So Vrablik is sending the message to other executives. We're going for money, baby. It's go time. What does whale hunting mean, Miss Rosemary? She says, whale hunting is business lingo. We're seeking a business relationship with people who have very high net worths. Oh, like the Trumps? Yeah, I'd say so. Rosemary, can you tell me about your relationship with Ivanka? She says, sure, love Ivanka. Also a whale, no doubt. Says, she was my main liaison to the Trump Organization. And I want to draw your attention to this email from August 7th, 2014, going way back in time now, before Trump was even running. Rosemary says, yeah, there was an email. Looks like I sent that to Ivanka. And can you read that email for us? She says, certainly. It says, my direct boss would like to call you and your dad to thank you for being such great clients and for all the business that we've been doing together. Well, that sounds nice. It doesn't sound like Rosemary feels defrauded. So the business management, executive management development people wants to get her boss on the phone and have a nice conversation with Trump and Ivanka. Email says, can you please read the next sentence? Says, yeah, your family is in the top 10 revenue generating names of asset and wealth management now. And he is thrilled with how it's grown. Wow. Top 10 revenue generating names of asset and wealth management now? That's a lot. That's pretty good. You kind of want that for your bank, right? And so here Klasfeld is reporting. He says, I want to show you another email. This one goes back even further from 2011. Says, did you send this email? Says they are ecstatic with our performance. So I think we will get tremendous business from them. She uses tremendous too. Little Trump lingo there. So she is saying that Trump is happy. Trump is happy with them. They love our performance. They're giving us good loans and it's all working out. So Trump's lawyer says, all right, I want to show you, Rosemary, this email from December 23rd, 2021, a little bit more recently. Here's an email with the subject line. It's called Project Eagle. You recognize this? She says, yeah. What is Project Eagle referring to? She says, oh, that's the Doral property. Got that. So Trump's lawyer says, okay, so Eagle is a golfing term, right? She says, yeah. But he says, but I'm not a golfer, so I don't really know what it means. That makes 2 of us. I think it's good. 2 under par? I don't know. But jokes that not being a golfer, he can't say for certain what it means. Now, crosstalk ensues between the state and the defense. And they're saying, no, I think it's 1 under par. It's a birdie, I think. Because the prosecutors aren't golfing either. No, it's not. It's an eagle. An eagle's the 2. I'm pretty sure eagle's 2 and a birdie's 1. And the judge's like, shut up, everybody. So Trump's lawyer, Cliff Roberts, jokes that they can't even agree on that. So the government's like, no, it's definitely a birdie. And it's definitely a birdie. It's 1 under par for a birdie, 2 for an eagle. Now, shut up, everybody. All right, let's take a break. It's 15-minute break. Shut up. All right. So they take the break. Figure it out. Go out there and Google it around. So then they come on back. Now, all right, we're back on break. Rosemary Vlablik's back on the stand. Suarez says, welcome back. We've decided that an eagle is 2 under par. All right. So I want to show you some emails about your other interactions with Trump and some other people. And she says, sure, I'm happy to walk you through those. And these emails are her effusive praise about her and the bank's relationship with Trump. Okay, they love each other. I want to show you this email from March 8, 2013. Recognize it? Yeah. It says here that you told Ivanka. Can you read this for us? It says, yeah, this one went over to Ivanka about the development of the Doral property. It says, I am so glad that we got to see you and have you show us the new rooms. They look amazing, Ivanka. Here's another email, June 12, 2013. Email says, Rosemary to Ivanka, the bank to the Trump organization. We had a great meeting today with credit risk, and they are very open to the extension and the burn off of your dad's guarantee. It was quite remarkable and a testament to you and your family and what you have achieved with us so quickly on our projects. They're like, dang, man, this Trump family can move, which is why we want it back in the White House. So they say in order to transform DC's landmark post office to a hotel, Trump needed government approval for this deal. So there's another email. In an email dated February 8, 2012, Rosemary alludes to this in a message. She says, sending this over to Ivanka, I'm presuming, saying, I guess they can pass the government's KYC too. So she sent this message over to probably somebody else in the bank, right? I don't know exactly who that message went to, but she's saying, look, even the Trumps can pass the government's know your customer. Okay. Know your customer is this, it's basically a law that says that, the banks and financial institutions have to know who they're dealing with. Like, that's why you have to verify who you are when you do these transactions, right? You can't just sign up for a brokerage account not knowing who you are, anonymously, right? Can you go sign up for a bank anonymously? No, you got to know who they are. And which is why there are people who are upset with crypto, because crypto is, a lot of them are not. Some exchanges, you can bypass KYC, know your customer, but not in the United States, right? Because we've got KYC laws. And so it's a complex area of consult your local crypto expert. So here in an email dated, she's pointing to the fact, man, even Trump can pass the government's KYC. So they are legit. That's 2012 before Trump's even running for presidency. So the Attorney General says, Your Honor, we object to this. Trump misled the government as well with the financial records. And so the government was misled too. He lied to them about the old post office. And so we want to strike that from the record, blah, blah, blah. And you'll get your moment on cross-examination. And it's about to begin. So Tishy's lawyer is now up. His name is Kevin Wallace. And here is Wallace versus Rosemary. Wallace says, all right, Rosemary, it's my turn. Now, I want to show you portions of an email chain. This came from the defense's records. And here, we read through a bunch of emails that you were just lavishing praise on Trump. But what about this one? You recognize this one that had some caution about these deals? For example, on December 28th, they pull out another email on the screen. You recognize this? December 28th, 2011. It says, the bank's then executive committee, who was on the committee member, his name is Pierre DeWeck. He says, well, I support the transaction, but we need ironclad full recourse under all circumstances. Okay, so this guy's on some committee, and there's, should we loan Trump $1 billion or whatever? Well, I support it, but we need ironclad full recourse under all circumstances. So isn't it true he doubted this? she says, well, I mean, he had an opinion on it, whatever. Now, in another email, she says, what about this one, Rosemary? It says, Rosemary, you in 2011, September 29th, you told Don Jr. and you told Jared Kushner in this email, you said, sorry about the recourse issue, a dirty word, I know, but it is a requirement in private banking, right? Like, we got to put that in there in the contract or whatever. Why did you say that was a dirty word, Rosemary? And she says, well, it is a dirty word because it means the bank could seize the borrower's personal assets in the event of a default, right? We're operating in a position where we have LLCs and S-corps and professional corporations and all these things that save a person's personal assets and separates them from the business. Right? That's why you form these entities. So you don't have personal liability. So the fact that you're going to have personal assets that could be subject to seizure is like a dirty thing. It's like, well, you're coming after my personal, how dare you? So it's a dirty word. But so you had put in there, right? So you had to bring up recourse. And so you might have wanted to seize Trump's assets. Well, that's part of what we do. It's part of a business and a private bank. So they say, okay, no further questions. And Rosemary is excused off the stand. Next witness, Your Honor, Trump's defense attorney. This person's name is Jennifer Hernandez, which I don't think we've heard from here, is now from Christopher Keese's law firm. She's entering the game. She says, Your Honor, we call Patrick Burney, shout out to Jennifer Hernandez, who is a Trump executive who testified previously. So it sounds like maybe he was called by Tishy. And Burney is on the stand, and boom, testimony concludes for the day, and that's it. And so we don't get much report there about what was said. Might have been near the close of the day, but that's what this guy looks like apparently in court. And of course, we'll see what else is happening here in the aftermath of this trial. And we appreciate Klasfeld reports and his work. So please be sure you're following him if you'd like to get more legal news that we don't cover here. He's covering a lot of other things at Klasfeld Reports on the X platform. And so we'll stay up to speed with what's happening in the New York trial. Certainly thank you for subscribing. One person who testified in the January 6th committee hearings is saying that this is very problematic for Trump, right? The fact that he's presenting evidence and the fact that he is going after Judge Engoron and his Greenfield law clerk, and he's criticizing Tishy for her fake scam prosecution, all of this is hurting America, hurting democracy. And so we've got to get Republicans to jump in on this dog pile and join in on the political prosecution. Here is Luttig.
Today, we see, to no surprise, that the former president is viciously attacking both the federal and the state courts, and even the individual judges who are presiding over his cases. What do we do about it? There's nothing that we can do other than what we have been doing and are doing.
Indict him again.
Except we need, frankly, Republicans to join the chorus,
like Liz Cheney,
that our very democracy and our rule of law in America is in peril. And it's in peril because of the conduct and the violent political rhetoric of the former president. But to date, most Republicans have stood silent.
Oh, okay. So that's Luttig and others. And we'll see if they escalate their attacks on the former president. We'll be here continuing to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following along. We'll see what the rest of this civil trial looks like. But Tishy did not have a good day today as the bank's witnesses come out and say, no problems here. Everything was good. We got paid. Love doing business with them. Love to continue to do business with them. But can't. So this is where we'll stay, my friends. Thank you for subscribing. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right. And now let's turn our attention over to this ruling out of Texas. And we'll see what is inside this one. And this is a story that is back from some time ago. A federal judge orders the disclosure of a Vaughn Index related to the Seth Rich laptop and the investigation. And this was an old story hearkening back to 2016 with old Hillary. Remember her when she said about her deleted emails that what? I wiped them like with a cloth. They were bleached. They were deleted like with a cloth here in this GIF. Well, more is being revealed about that because there were some allegations that Seth Rich, this man who is deceased, may he rest in peace, was maybe involved in the leak of those emails. And there's been a lot of back and forth around this. And there was a FOIA act that came out, a FOIA request that was submitted. And now a judge is declaring that the FBI has to start cracking the case on this. It has to start opening up and at least provide what's called a Vaughn Index, which we will take a look at and explore what that means. But to get caught up on the Seth Rich story, it's been a long road. WikiLeaks was involved in this. We've had other people talk about this. Let's see what Wikipedia tells us. And I know it's a bad source, but it'll give us a broad overview. Here is the story. Seth Rich, July 10th, 2016, we remember that election, was in Bloomingdale neighborhood, and he died about an hour and a half after being shot in the back twice. Shot in the back twice. The perpetrators were never apprehended. Police suspected he'd been the victim of a robbery, although I think there were reports that they never ever even took his wallet. 27 years old, he was an employee of the DNC. Now, his murder spawned what they say are several right-wing conspiracy theories. We know how many of those have been proven true, including the false claim, contradicted by law enforcement, that Rich was involved in the leaked emails. Okay, they say did not happen. It was also contradicted because Russians got indicted and the intelligence community, says that the emails were part of Russia. And also fact-checking websites like the New York Times and PolitiFact and Snopes and Washington Post, they said that conspiracies about the Seth Rich leak were all fake news. Okay, so you look at those people and you tell us whether they're credible or not. Now, Rich's family, they did denounce the conspiracy theorist, and they said that those individuals were exploiting their son's death. And their spokesperson called the conspiracy theorists disgusting sociopaths. All right. And so they got retractions from Fox News and other things. And so Fox News actually settled with them in a 7-figure settlement. And I don't know what their claims were. But this is the story, right? This is what Wikipedia tells us, that Rich grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, was working in a lot of different applications, eventually was shot about a block from the Bloomingdale neighborhood, left a bar. He was a regular customer there. Police were alerted to the gunfire 4:20 in the morning. They had a gunfire locator. He was found multiple gunshot wounds, died an hour and a half later. That he was not shot in the head is seen as evidence against the shooting having been an assassination, right? They didn't shoot him in the head. They're like, that's, okay. According to the police, he died from 2 shots to the back, may have been killed in an attempted robbery. The residents noted that it had been plagued by robberies. Mother noted that there had been a struggle. His hands were bruised, knees were bruised, face was bruised, but they didn't finish robbing him. They never took anything. They just took his life. Police told the family they'd found surveillance recording showing a glimpse of the legs of the 2 people who could be the killers. And so apparently never found these guys. And in the aftermath of this thing, Rich's parents and his girlfriend appeared on Crime Watch, and they were dedicating some things to his memory. In March 2017, there was a GoFundMe, $200,000 for a private investigation. The Rich family was approached by this person, Trump advisor to Steve Bannon, who recommended some other investigations, but didn't see anything. The Metro Police also posted $25,000. WikiLeaks announced a $20,000 reward for information. Rich's family said that they were unable to verify that offer. In 2016, a Republican lobbyist who was personally offering $100,000 for this, a lot of money, but nobody can find out who did it. Political conspiracy theories and racially charged comments hit the internet, and a post on before Twitter's memorial service said that maybe this stuff was a political assassination. Reddit got this, and Roger Stone got this, and Trump got this. Now, they say, according to British journalists, the Russian intelligence agency, GRU, they tried to implicate Rich as the person who was responsible for the stolen DNC emails. Date stamps on the DNC files were altered, they say, to show that 5 days before the death, the time zone was changed. And Guccifer 2.0, who I think we know as the Russian hacker, then reported that Rich had been their source. Rich had been their source. Okay, so the Russian hacker says that Rich gave them the dates, the materials. Now, based partly on their acceptance of false dates, some experts then concluded that the emails had been copied in the DNC office and had not been hacked from the outside, so no external breach. Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, also fueled the speculation in an interview. He brought up the case of Seth Rich. When asked about sources, he said, we don't disclose our sources. But according to the Mueller report, WikiLeaks did get an email containing an encrypted file from the Russian hacker, which was 4 days after Seth Rich died. In an April 2018 Twitter direct message revealed that even as Assange was suggesting publicly that they got emails from Rich, BuzzFeed described as the messages, and so they're kind of diminishing other claims. Now, a lot of people are debunking any claims and so on, right? So you see the rest of this. Uncorroborated, Fox News made some claims, retracted a bunch of stories. Very, very heavy article here. Multiple lawsuits. This has been an ongoing deal. Well, what we see is that a federal judge has issued an opinion on this. And before we take a look at it, I want to just quickly explain what a Vaughn Index is. So this is a claim that is brought under the Freedom of Information Act request. And here, the government is going to tell us that the judge is going to tell us that the FBI has to deliver a Vaughn Index. So a Vaughn Index, this is from the Justice website, says that is a document that agencies prepare in FOIA litigation to justify each withholding of information under FOIA. So if they're not going to give us the records on Seth's laptop or wherever, well, they got to explain why. The term arose from a case called Vaughn versus Rosen. Sometimes indexes are useful in non-litigation, but a ruling does not require the agencies prepare an itemized index in response to a request. A requester whose FOIA request is pending is not entitled to a Vaughn Index, but if it does prepare an index, the index, and they're ordered to now by the judge, when they do, it must identify each document withheld, state the statutory exemption claimed, and explain how the disclosure of that document would damage the interest that the claim exemption protects. So we're going to see a lot more information than we're currently seeing. Now, what's interesting about this is in this order, the FBI, they want over 60 years to give this material out. Why do they need 60 years to give us some information about this incident? So here is what this looks like. This is out of the United States District Court, Eastern District of Texas, Sherman Division. It's a 25-pager, and this is part of a FOIA request brought by Brian Huddleston. Shout out to Brian Huddleston for digging into this. He's bringing this against the FBI and the U.S. Department of Justice. And here is what the judge's order says. This is a memo and an opinion and order. And this is for information about Seth Rich. Pending before the court, writes the judge, are the defendant's FBI's motion for clarification. Now, having considered the motion, the court issues some rulings, and we'll get to those later. But the background is the memo, opinion, and order arises, what this judge is saying, it's emanating from a FOIA request. Brian Huddleston versus the FBI and the DOJ. He says, we're not going to spend a lot of time belaboring the background here. We've already discussed it. But on September 29th, the court entered the prior order requiring that, this is 2022, requiring the FBI and the DOJ to produce information it possesses related to the laptop from Seth Rich and responsive to their requests. Now, the judge issued a prior order, but the prior order did not specify whether they must produce the information it possesses related to the laptop, the work laptop, or the personal laptop. So we don't know. FBI's like, well, we don't know what to do. What information are you talking about? We're the dumb FBI. Can you please clarify? However, all analysis in the prior order discussed Seth Rich's personal laptop as opposed to the work laptop. So you should have known. Additionally, the prior order did not address whether exemptions 7D and 7E apply to the personal laptop. So then the FBI, because they don't want to disclose anything, they said, oh, we need a clarification. You know, it's like when your mom tells you to do a chore and you're like, but I don't know where to put it. It's like, you know where to put that thing. Okay, put it back in the cabinet. You know where it came from. What cabinet? Your mom's like, okay, that's it. You're grounded. Not that I have any experience with that, but you get the point. Well, we don't know what to do. How do I start this task? On October 27th, the FBI filed a motion for clarification. The motion requests for the court to reconsider whether the exemptions apply, meaning we don't have to disclose things. We don't want to disclose the personal laptop under Section 7D or 7E. Now they say the FBI, let's back up on this. Huddleston, on that prior point about whether they can keep stuff precluded, Huddleston, the person who's seeking this info, has expressed concerns. He says, the FBI may have had physical custody over Seth Rich's personal laptop at one point, and then they played hot potato. They gave the laptop back to the local police. We don't have possession of it. We can't give any records because we don't have custody. However, the unredacted version of the FD 302, which the FBI submitted for ex parte in-camera review, demonstrates that Huddleston's concern is unfounded. Okay, so this is the judge pointing this out. Sounds like the FBI told me, the judge is saying, FBI told me ex parte, like in a separate filing, that Huddleston, you didn't see. I looked at their files in camera in my court chambers off the record. They don't have the personal laptop. Now, Huddleston also claims that the FBI has made inconsistent statements as to whether it reviewed the information contained on the compact disc. The FBI has clarified this issue by revealing that the FBI can typically identify the types and the approximate volume of files on the compact disc without extracting the data. So the next thing will be FBI, I don't have it, or if we have it, we didn't look at it, right? Or we looked at only like the metadata. So we can't give you stuff that we didn't look at or that we don't have. The FBI tried to evaluate an approximate page count for the court, but it has not extracted or processed the data on the CD. So we don't know. Now, the FBI, they say, does not actually have Seth Rich's personal laptop. This is the judge. But rather, it has a CD containing images of Seth Rich's personal laptop. So you can make like an ISO file of a hard drive and just upload that, burn that to a CD disk, or maybe it's a DVD. Further, the FBI has not extracted the information contained on the CD. Now, on November 2022, 1 year ago, Huddleston filed his response. On December 12th, the FBI filed its reply, and then Huddleston files his surreply. FBI says, I can't give you anything that we don't have. He says, well, you have it. They said, no, we don't. So on November 14th, a year ago, Huddleston filed a motion for clarification. He said, we got questions about the work laptop because the prior order did not expressly address the work laptop. Then the FBI filed its response. Then, in its response to Huddleston, then the FBI noted, we located additional items. Don't you hate when that happens? They discover new things all the time. Amazing. The first two items were a DVD and a tape drive. Go figure. The FBI found these items stored in the same evidence control room as the work laptop. It's amazing how evidence just pops up when you start digging into it. Weird, isn't that weird? The FBI also found a letter from a third party that accompanied the work laptop, 2 chain of custody forms, and a 3-page report detailing actions by third parties outside the entity to image the work laptop. So then it's just amazing. They find everything. And now the person who actually looked at the data is not the FBI. It's a third-party entity that you obviously is not under the jurisdiction of the FBI, so not subject to FOIA. And they're very sneaky about this. We put out another video on this channel, if you missed it, about Arizona. In Arizona, a judge said, no, you can't request records from Runbeck Election Services. Yes, I know that they ran a huge portion of the election in Arizona, but you don't get access to the videos. They're a private party, a private third company. Get out of here, said the judge. So again, they outsource the work that they don't want to be covered by accountability to outside people. It's reprehensible. So they send it out. They say these 3 items were attached to the work laptop. And by the way, I just want to say it's not like it's okay to have third parties do work. That's great. That's fine. They're more competent than the government in many ways, but they should not be excluded from governmental oversight, right? It's not like a safety valve where they can just do all of their dirty work in a private company somewhere. They should be subject to the same level of scrutiny as every other government entity because they're essentially an agency of the government. Not even complicated, but all right. Now, these 3 items were attached to the work laptop, to the DVD, and the tape drive, and they were not uploaded to the relevant electronic case file. That's your FBI at work. So somebody just threw them in a box and didn't even chronicle them and then put them in the case management system. Yeah, because they probably don't want you to see them. They don't want you to have them show up anywhere. And then this annoying person called Huddleston is trying to file and dig into this. So now they have to start disclosing it. So the judge gives us some legal standards, and we'll skip that because it's just the rules. And then we get to some analysis. They say, all right, the FBI and Huddleston, they have some issues here. 3 issues. 1, first, we've got problems about the production of Seth Rich's personal laptop. We've also got questions about Seth Rich's work laptop and the associated documents that they just discovered out of thin air. And then we've got a third batch of issues about the production of the letter from a third party that accompanied the work laptop, 2 chain of custody forms, and a 3-page report detailing the actions by the third party entity that imaged the work laptop. And if there's nothing to this, and it's part of something that is covered by FOIA, why is the FBI dragging its feet and taking so much time to disclose this stuff? Let's see if we can get some answers on this. So, clarification about the personal laptop. The judge says, let us dispose of this now. The issue of whether the FBI and the DOJ must produce the information, info, from the images of the personal laptop involves 3 issues. 1, whether the FBI waived its arguments about the personal laptop. 2, whether FOIA exemptions apply under D or E. And 3, under E. The court will require, you see this is coming, the FBI and the DOJ to produce a Vaughn Index that we just learned about, addressing the information that they possess related to Seth Rich's personal laptop. So we've got the work laptop and the personal laptop. We're going to get the Vaughn Index, which is what we saw previously, is essentially a listing of what they have and why they're not disclosing it. Now, Huddleston says that the FBI waived its arguments about the exemptions, so they can no longer use the rules to withhold data. They say it applies to the personal laptop. Why? Because the FBI failed to raise these issues in its previous motion. The FBI says, no, we didn't. We raised it. We clearly asserted and explained that in our prior filing. And the judge says, all right, well, let me think about it. He says the FBI did raise arguments about exemptions. And although greater explanation would have been helpful, they kind of didn't really go into it a lot, specifically more detailed explanations of why these apply, the FBI has not waived its arguments about the personal laptop. Okay, so the FBI kind of glossed over it a little bit. The judge is like, well, would have liked to see a little bit more meat on those bones, but I'm not going to say you waived it. Now, this is a reasonable judge, which sounds like a reasonable solution to me. But if this was, let's say, for example, Judge Chutkan, and this was Donald Trump asking for some leeway here, we've already seen a parallel example of that. For example, Judge Chutkan said that Trump couldn't get subpoenas because he was not specific enough, right? She says, nope, sorry, no subpoenas for you. And FBI says, well, sorry, we weren't very specific in our filings, but can we please still have our exemptions? And the judge says, yeah, of course you can, right? Because we are reasonable here in Texas, not so much in DC. Now, in its summary judgment briefing, the FBI indicated that it sought to apply exemption 7D and 7E. And so the judge, we'll skip forward, says, will allow you to at least raise the exemptions. Okay, we're not going to say you waived it. So we'll let you bring them up and then we'll discuss them. So then, since they can bring the exemptions up, they say, now let's talk about exemption 7D. We'll see if that one applies. First here, they say the FBI claims that exemption 7D applies to the Seth Rich CD containing images of the personal laptop because local law enforcement provided the CD to the FBI under an implied assurance of confidentiality. FBI says, no. I mean, the local cops gave that to us. And we promised them that we wouldn't share that. The FBI argues that the assurance of confidentiality exists and it's implied. It's not explicit. It's just kind of like an unspoken rule. They say, 1, the information and the assistance that came from the local cops would disclose their techniques or details that aren't publicly known, which would be the DC cops. And the information provided in these instances concerns the law enforcement agency's own confidential sources. The FBI says, if we give this information up, it could jeopardize our investigative techniques. Gosh, you're tired of hearing that one, aren't you? procedures as disclosure would allow criminals to predict and circumvent our investigations. And it could also discredit state authorities and hinder their ability to recruit their own resources. And it could subject the agency's personnel to violent reprisal if they tell us anything about this. So we seem very curious here. What kind of confidential sources are these people referring to, huh? Were there people in the investigation? Because we could just redact those names out, obviously. Just redact the names out. What were the confidential sources doing in this investigation? Were they talking to other people that ran into dead ends? They were exercising what? And this is about his laptop, right? About information on his laptop, not necessarily the government's investigation of the laptop. So I'm curious what we're going to find. So in response, Huddleston says, no, sorry, FBI, you failed to carry your burdens. The FBI has not reasonably inferred that the source provided the laptop under any confidentiality assurances. And he says the FBI did not show how the disclosure of the contents would harm law enforcement. Exactly. That's the point that we were just making. What is the harm? What's the damage to the FBI? What investigative source or personnel is going to be subject to violent reprisal? This dude was, murdered on a street with 2 gunshots wounds to the back. And then they had his laptop. So if you have the information on the laptop, what does that have to do with the investigation? How could FBI personnel be subject to violent reprisal from that? Huddleston further claims, he says this case is comparable to other cases. And he says Section 7D should not be something that allows them to withhold this evidence from us. Now, the judge addresses this, says, okay, look, 2 of the FBI's bases for finding that there is confidentiality, it goes to techniques and procedures. Now, if an agency attempts to demonstrate confidentiality, they need to do that, and it must meet the requirements of 7E. And he says, this judge, sorry, FBI, your bases based on a source agency's investigative techniques and procedures fail to meet the requirements of Exemption 7E. Your explanations only reveal that the source agency's investigative techniques are not publicly known and that their disclosure would allow criminals to circumvent the techniques. But the judge says, what are you talking about? These bases are conclusory and they do not provide at least some explanation of what the procedures are or how they would be disclosed. What's the harm to the FBI if we see what's on the laptop? How do they even get there? Now, 2 of the FBI's bases for finding that an implied assurance of confidentiality exists deal with the source agency's confidential sources. We've got confidential sources. Again, who are these people? And the source's ability to recruit confidential sources in the future. This is a murder case with some leftover property. These bases suggest that the FBI should be able to treat its sources as confidential because its source's source was confidential. But the FBI, again, provides no explanation for why the ultimate source is confidential. So, it says an agency may not justify its exemption by claiming that its source's source was confidential without any other explanation. To show an implied assurance, we have to show that it was actually something that exists. Like you have to show us this implied assurance of confidentiality existed between you and the source and between the source and the source's source. Therefore, this basis is insufficient. And then the final basis, the one I'm most interested in, is this so-called threat of retaliation to the agents of the FBI's source. So we've got a source, and a FBI agent. Now, the final basis for the exemption is that we might face violent reprisal for sharing information about a laptop. Got it? But the FBI provides no explanation as to how the disclosure of the CD containing images of the laptop could ever lead to violent reprisal. For a threat of retaliation to be a valid basis for non-disclosure, you got to give us more than that. But the FBI does not describe any circumstances connected to the disclosure of the personal laptop or suggest the threat of retaliation to its employees. And so there is no basis for this violent reprisal nonsense. Now, we get some more heavy lifting here, and the FBI says that they justify the withholding of their records to protect its sources and methods. But Huddleston says no. To satisfy the requirements, you've got to do much more. And here, the FBI is justifying the withholding of the files. Their explanation neither provides an explanation of what procedures are involved, nor how they would be disclosed. So their explanation from the FBI is vague. It conveys minimal concrete information. The court has no idea what procedures would be at stake. And so the court is not persuaded that the disclosure of this material could risk circumvention of the law. So the court, again, great finding, finds that the FBI did not properly withhold files on the images of the personal laptop under Exemption 7E. Now, other exemptions may apply. We'll see. Thus, the Huddleston is entitled to summary judgment on this issue. The government shall produce a Vaughn Index addressing the info it possesses on the CD that is responsive to Huddleston. Awesome. So the court will require, the judge says, the DOJ and the FBI to produce a Vaughn Index of the work laptop, the DVD, and the tape drive because these items are agency records. Sorry, the FBI asserts that the items are not an agency record. They say we gave it to a third party. But FOIA includes agencies and their records, including things that are properly withheld. What is an agency is what he's talking about. The FBI, now we're talking about agency, right? The FBI urges the court to analyze agency. Says the four factors is wild. The four factors of the Burka test are, long story short, FBI says we didn't have control of the document. We didn't dispose of the record. It's not ours. We gave it over to a third party. They did the analysis on it. And so we can't be expected to give information on it. The court says, hold on a second. We're not applying your FBI test. We're applying the Roja test, not the Burka test. And we're going to determine whether they are agency records, the work laptop, the DVD, the tape drive, whether they are records. Applying here to this case, yes, they are agency records. They are subject to the FBI's control as required under the first prong of the test, undoubtedly. The FBI is in possession of the items. It stores them in their evidence room, for crying out loud. The FBI emphasizes that all items are evidentiary items, and they belong to non-governmental third parties. They're not ours. I mean, it's just in our evidence room. But like they're not ours, though. We're just holding them. Although these items are all considered evidentiary property managed under a different set of rules and regulations, the circumstance does not demonstrate that the items are kept for reasons unrelated to their transaction of public business. Okay, it's for the FBI's records. Next, the FBI notes that it does not have the right to use and dispose of the items. And it says we must return all of these items to their rightful owners when the criminal proceedings have terminated. But it says that they're implying that they don't have the right to use these materials. But the judge says, sorry, nope. Overall, the FBI has not met its burden to demonstrate that the work laptop, the DVD, the tape drive are not agency records. And so therefore, Huddleston is entitled to summary judgment. Huddleston specifically requested that the court order the FBI to produce a Vaughn Index for the metadata, and the court orders them to do that. Address the information that you have on the work laptop, the DVD, the tape drive that is responsive to these requests. And you must also address the metadata on the work laptop. Now, the court is not going to require, unlike the other things, the FBI and the DOJ to produce the letter from the third party, which we'd love to see. Not going to require the 2 chain of custody forms or the 3-page report detailing by the imaging entity. The FBI claims the newly found documents are exempt from FOIA. They say that these were compiled for law enforcement purposes, right? These things were created for the FBI. It's their work product, unlike just the laptop, which is just a piece of evidence that exists, that could reasonably be expected to interfere with their proceedings. The FBI argues that Exemption A and that the release of this information would wreck the investigation. Now here, the judge says there is general recognition among courts that prematurely releasing information that could interfere against fugitives is problematic. The FBI has provided, according to the judge, sufficient explanation to withhold those documents. The FBI described the enforcement proceeding that's taking place, but the court does not find that the arguments are boilerplate and conclusory. So Huddleston loses on that. Contrary to Huddleston's arguments, a law enforcement agency does not necessarily have to rely on its information for disclosure to reasonably interfere with proceedings. And so the FBI had described in sufficient detail how public disclosure of these new documents could be problematic, and thus the court finds the FBI properly withheld the new documents under the rule. So now the judge is concluding, says, okay, this is where it gets wild. The FBI, here's the timeline for the disclosure of the documents. Now here's your FBI at work. The judge says, the FBI must process hundreds of thousands of documents to comply with this memo and order. That's a lot of materials because it's a lot of stuff on the laptop. But the FBI, check this out, requests about 67 years to produce the documents on the personal laptop. The FBI wants 67 years to produce the documents related to the personal laptop alone. Now, Huddleston says that's obviously insane. You have the CD, just give me the CD. How about you just give us 14 days to do it? 14 days. Now, the judge says, okay, neither of these requests is appropriate. And so obviously the court orders them to confer and provide a suggested timeline for these materials. 14 days, a little short. 67 years for our useless FBI? The judge writes in conclusion, says, with the exception of Seth Rich's work laptop, the DVD drive, the tape drive, the compact disc containing images of Seth Rich's personal laptop, which are responsive to the FOIA, the court finds the government properly withheld or redacted information in other areas. So it is therefore ordered that FBI's motion is denied. It is further ordered that the motion for clarification is granted in part, denied in part, and the big one is it is ordered that the government shall produce a Vaughn Index addressing the information it possesses on the CD containing images of the personal laptop and is responsive to the FOIA request. It is further ordered that they shall also produce a Vaughn Index addressing the information it possesses on the work laptop, the DVD, the tape drive that is responsive to FOIA. Also must address metadata, and further ordered that these two sides have to get together and come up with a timeline for the disclosure of all of this information within 14 days. It is so ordered, signed this 28th day of November by Amos L. Mazant, United States District Judge from Texas. And they say the FBI requests to produce the documents related to the personal laptop. If you want to know, 500 documents per month. They say we have about 400,000 documents. We'll do 500 per month. And so the time it's going to take us to get this to you, 66.7 years. That's your FBI right there. Pretty good. So very, very nice ruling. We're going to get some good information on this. Basically everything. I mean, the only thing that we're not going to see is the new stuff that was part of the work product, which, you know, you kind of want, but you can come to your own conclusions if you can get the raw data. Like, for example, we're not going to see the 3-page report that they drafted, but we're going to see the Vaughn Index about what's on the materials, right? So we'll be able to see kind of what's inside. Now, we won't actually see the actual data until Huddleston and the plaintiffs here make the claim that they are entitled to access to that. But it is a great ruling. I mean, it is a great opening of this case. And so shout out to Judge Amos L. Mazant, U.S. District Court Judge out of the Eastern District of Texas for the Sherman Division. Sure, Hillary Clinton is not too happy about that. Of course, we're looking forward to seeing what those Vaughn indexes look like, and we'll be here continuing to cover it, my friends. So thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing this content, sharing this channel with friends or family or anybody else who you think might join some of the work that we do here. We'd love to see you and them right back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered some good ground. We got Seth Rich. Case is looking like we've got some good activity here. We've got Trump's witnesses just having, I think, great testimony in the New York trial, which is good news. And then we, of course, have Trump's Twitter search warrant, which exposed all of us to Jack Smith's spreadsheets. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. We are, as per usual, going to do our members only after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com as soon as we wrap it up here. But before we get over there, we do have to say hello to our friends on the tubes who are supporting our work here today. And we got Zach Nichols clipping away for us. And our friend B.H. Williams starting us off over on the locals. Says, I'm relatively new here. What would help as a decoder ring of the shortcuts and nicknames? Anyone have one? To be fair, this is my third day, and I've been able to figure most of them out from B.H. Williams. That's funny, B.H. Yeah, I think I saw your comment yesterday. B.H. was asking, was it you who was asking who Clavicle Girl was? Who's Clavicle Girl? And of course, I think we figured that out, Cassidy Hutchinson. So that's pretty interesting. Maybe we'll have to create our own little translation decoder ring. I like it. B.H. Williams, thanks for joining us, man. Good to see you on the locals. And thanks for jumping in the comments. Great to have you. We got this one from Dolphin Fan is the man over on the YouTubes, bringing in Rory M, Michael K, Philip S. We got DS. We also got SS is in the house, courtesy of Dolphin Fan is the man, bringing in the new membos. Hey, we got McKenna Realty Maui says, hey, congrats on hitting the 300,000 subscriber mark, Robert. All the best from Makina Realty from Maui. And did that happen today, my friends? Wow, if that happened today, that might have happened right during the show. So I haven't even seen it yet. And that sounds like it's a pretty exciting thing. I'm very excited about that. And of course, I love you and everybody who helps us to get there. It's a great success for us. I think we're having some good progress in carrying these stories out there and exposing a lot of this stuff to the world. And so thanks, Makina, for saying that. We'll have to check that out and maybe have a little celebration tomorrow on that. But thanks for flagging that out. Very grateful for all of you. Quite frankly, I love you. Thank you, Makina. And we'll celebrate that later. We got this one from Spud says, the IRS can't justify their existence since due to Bidenomics, nobody will really have more than $600 in their accounts. Oops. Yeah, and I think every transaction you now have to notify the IRS about, which is just amazing. So we got that one. We've got this one. That was from Spuds. Hey, Vientikis is here. V has a book coming out, my friend. So V, of course, is a mod around the house, and he's got a book coming out. And this was assembled with some help from our locals community. So our meme smith, Geegum Geegum, also had a contribution here to this. So V says, Chronicles of the Last Enchantress, Book 1, Identity is coming out. Books 2 and 3 and hardcover coming soon. I don't know. They're taking forever. Also, limited time availability until the end of the year. The link is attached. So go look this one up, my friends. It's available, V? Are you saying this is available? Amazing. So go check it out and support your friend Vientikis, who is got a new book out. Incredible, V. What an amazing accomplishment, man. I can't wait to order a copy. So thank you for sharing that with us. How cool is that? Congratulations. What an amazing thing to do. And the book cover, I believe, was designed by our Geegum Geegum, who's in the house, which is just awesome. So congratulations to everybody on putting that thing together. Very cool. Eleanor sending in a nice dono. Thank you, Eleanor. Super grateful for the lovely dono. The blind lawyer says, I got a raise today, and Jack Smith knows how corrupt I think he is. Makes it a good day. She violated my rights. So the blind lawyer says, you got a raise, and Jack Smith knows how corrupt I think he is? How'd you do that? Did you talk to him? Sounds like a great day. The blind lawyer. This one is from CF Rob. Says, this is where I've been saying they got Biden's 81 million votes. Trump had 81 million followers on his Twitter account. My account was suspended when Trump's account was suspended, and they never restored my account. Yeah, and Did that by design, right? How dare you have a voice and speak out against what they're doing? Wild, Rob. Glad you're still here, my friend. Chubby's here, says, I love how they always say Trump's first term was dangerous and nearly destroyed our democracy, yet they never cite any examples or evidence or proof. They don't even look at what they're doing. I mean, they don't even listen to themselves. It's like, well, hold on a minute. What do you call your conduct here? What do you think prosecuting your political opponents are in any part of the world? It's called corruption. It's called tyranny. And they're literally doing it 4 times, and they're just thrilled to do it. We got, hey, what's up? Ryan Patrick's in the house. Ryan Patrick's also on YouTube. Shout out to Ryan Patrick. Says, smash that like button, baby. Thank you, Ryan. Nice to have you swing by, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. And thanks for being a member also. Ryan Patrick's over on the tubes. Make sure you're following him as well, my friends. He's jumping in the chat saying, what's up? CF Rob's here. Says, if you look at real Donald Trump on X, his followers is now up to 87 million. How many were suspended? Also following and followed by General Michael Flynn and in a special Flynn support group, retweet group. So, yes, and I think it's really, really an important thing. I mean, think about it like digital yard signs, right? If you were able to go around and remove all the Joe Biden yard signs or all your opponent's yard signs, that would be very, very useful, right? Like you definitely want to do that. And if you could legally, and they just did it digitally. They just took out your tweets, took out your posts, they took out our videos, they demonetized us after January 6th. There's all sorts of stuff that they've done. And it's like ripping out digital yard signs. It's cheating is what it is. Scott Zajak is here. Hey man, upgraded to the shout out membo. Welcome, Scott. Good to have you on the membo tubes. We got this one from Super Buff. Says, please go over the end of this election trial with your viewers later. It's the sickest, most corrupt judge. And I'll take a look at this one, Super Buff. This one says, Beatles versus Rodriguez Brown Hill in Washoe County, Nevada. 17 minutes you must watch. Interesting. Okay, I got the link up. And I'll take a look at that, Super Buff. Thank you for the dono. Thanks for saying what's up over on Rumble. Is that new? Is it recent? All right, I'll look into it. Thank you for that one. If it's worthwhile, we'll do it. This one, 17 minutes, and I don't know exactly what it involves, but we'll take a look at it. This one came out from Knox Bierman, says, happy Wednesday, all. Just to be clear, Ivanka's whale status is of a different nature than the Greenfield's whaleness. Definitely true. Yeah, one is about money and finances. The other is a never-ending fight with Diet Pepsi and liberalism. So definitely different categories. One's not like the other. Good to see you, Knox. This one came in from Randy Mills. Says, Mark Mills is my brother. We love your work. Well, Randy Mills, shout out to Randy and shout out to Mark, the Mills bros in the house. I appreciate you guys being here, Randy, and thanks for the nice dono. And I hope you guys are having a beautiful, beautiful holiday season. Thanks for jumping in with us here today, Randy. And shout out to Mark. Randy and Mark in the house. Hey, this one came in from Teeny BB. Says, Rob, do you know of the status of Elise Stefanik's complaint letter re-Engeron? By the way, love you oodles. Flowers, shaka, not thumbs up. Shaka from Teeny BB. Thank you for that one. And thumbs up, heart, and kisses. Thank you, Teeny BB. Super nice. And I love you back, by the way. And so Elise Stefanik, she's kind of declaring victory on this thing. She, on her X account, has posted a couple times like, you know, my ruling got the gag appeal in order. So I don't know that she's expecting it to go anywhere. I honestly think she's kind of done with it. Like she'll follow up on it, but I don't know that she's expecting the state bar or the judicial committee essentially to respond to her in a favorable manner in any way. I think she just sent that off. And now that the Court of Appeals in New York has accepted the gag order appeal, she's saying, it's kind of done, right? It's kind of what she wanted to get done. So thank you, Teeny BB. Great comment. Nice to see you here. And thanks for the nice emojis. This one came in from Ginger. Says a hole in one, then an albatross. And so that's got to be like on a par 5, right? Then an eagle, then a birdie, then a par, then a bogey. So like if you're on a par 5, you can't get a hole in one. Can you get a hole in one? All right, I don't know. All right, that makes sense. So I was mostly right, I think. 2 below par is eagle. All right, I think I got it. All right. We got thank you for the clarity on that, King Ginger. You know, you see I gotta learn more about the golf, I guess. Janine is here, says coincidental that Chauvin got stabbed in person. No, I don't. I mean, I think, you know, he got shivved. You know, I saw the Babylon Bee had a very funny comment on that. They said Derek Chauvin got indicted for being in possession of a shiv. But Derek Chauvin charged again after being found in prison with possession of a shiv. Get it? The shiv's inside of him. They charged him for it. You're not allowed to have that. The Babylon Bee. All right. R. Desma is a supporter. What's up, R? Coming in. Great to have you, RD, in the house. Thanks for joining as a supporter. Hey, Peng is gifting away some membos. Hot Pocket, man. Woo! Love those Hot Pockets. Amazing. We got this one from another one from Peng, bringing in Robbie K. What's up, Robbie K? In the house. Beautiful first name. Welcome. Bruce Rice is bringing in 5 new membos. Avalon Acres. Lee Sharp is coming here. We got Bayou Dreams. Derek Z and NABR is coming in the house. And is that NABR? Is that an element? Is that what is that, like sodium bromide or something? All right, good to see you here, NABR in the house. We've also got Chris. What's up, Chris? Thanks for sending this one in. Says, your commitment to staying on top of the latest developments and distilling complex information into accessible updates has not gone unnoticed. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for saying that, my man. And honestly, thanks for being here, going through it with us. You know, it's a real joy to be able to explore this stuff with you together. Otherwise, you know, I'd be going crazy myself. So thanks for being here, Chris. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. First one is in here from Barb S. What's up, Barb? Yes, the video game Level Up guy. Love it. Level Up. First super sticker from Barb S. Thank you, Barb, for sending that one in and for being a membo. First one in the house. This one came in. What do we have here? Says, yeah. There was a Christmas tree problem over there at the White House today, which we were reading a story about that on our members only stream this morning, and I almost couldn't keep it together. It was the second, you know, the Christmas tree fall over is the second Christmas tree problem that they had. And the first one was a fungus problem. Fungus at the White House, at the Christmas tree. So that one had a fungal problem because Hunter, probably, I don't know where the fungus came from, but we know where the cocaine probably came from. And so we ask about the fungus. It's just a mess. So Gypsy says, feds wish to speak to this critter in regards to falling Christmas tree in DC's. This little insurrectionist chipmunk. Hopefully he gets raided by the FBI. Rocky says, hey, word to the judge on that one, on that last opinion from the Seth Rich. It's nice to hear reason in a court ruling. Yeah, it was nice. Yeah, he kind of just, he gave the FBI a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, which, you know, maybe I wouldn't do, but you can understand that. And, you know, you don't see that in DC or elsewhere. We got this one from Mark. What's up, Mark? We got Mark Butcher is coming in. Thank you, Mark. Hey, says, hey, you. What's up, Mark? Hey, you back. It's good to have you here, my friend. Thanks for being a membo. And thanks for the good dono. Harold is here. What's up, Harold D? Sending in a nice dono. Thank you, Harold. No comment or question on that, but thank you for sending it in, my friend. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you're having a beautiful day and a beautiful Wednesday. Bruce is here, says, thank you, Dolphin fan. Dolphin fan is the man. And says, Robert's content is spot on. Thank you, Bruce. Bruce, you're amazing. Thank you for being a membo. Thank you for thanking Dolphin fan. And Dolphin fan, thank you for being amazing. And everybody. We got Kurt is here. Kurt has been a membo for 1 month. Woo. Okay, so Kurt, we know. First month's the hardest. It only gets easier from here. Love the channel, brother. Kurt, love you back, man. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a membo and joining us on the day. We got this one from Angie. Angie W. gifted another membo to Kimberly R. Welcome aboard, Kimberly, in the house, coming on as a new membo. And we do members only streams in the morning. So YouTube members and locals members, we'll see you tomorrow morning for our members only stream in the house. We got, oh my gosh, Radicy just picked up her beautiful fur babies. Look at these 2 handsome puppies in the house. In the house, courtesy of Radicy over on the locals. And drive safely over there. We've got this one from Pookie's Ma. What's up, Pookie's Ma? Sent in a very nice tip, Pookie's Ma. That's so nice of you. Thank you for sending that in. Says, in honor of your milestone. Well, it is a pretty exciting time, pretty exciting day. I'm very excited about it. We're growing. It's good fun. We're having some good times together. We're looking forward to many more of them. And so Pookie's Ma, thanks for sending that in. Love you guys. Appreciate that. We got Larry also in the house, and Larry says, was SR a confidential human source they were worried about? And if so, how would that change what we think happened to him? Oh, good question. Yeah, that's a good question. Was Seth Rich an actual confidential human source? I don't know. Good question. Maybe that's why they don't want to give up this information. Maybe he was doing something for or with them. Or maybe he's a stepping stone into another bigger investigation, right? Something bigger like Julian Assange. Because Julian Assange, remember, there's still a warrant out for Julian Assange. And I should have made that point oh no, we're buffering a little bit. All right, hopefully it clears up in a minute. Anyways, like Julian Assange is still an open case. Like they're still trying to extradite him in. So if Seth Rich is a stepping stone to Julian Assange or something like that, you can see why they don't want to give that information up, but it certainly is an interesting theory. And so Larry, thank you for sending that one in. Great question. We're going to jump over onto the X platform to see who is joining us over there before we wrap it up and go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. And if you're a YouTube member, don't forget to grab the Telegram link so that you can join us for the members only after party. Navigate over to the community tab section on YouTube, scroll down, and you'll see the Telegram link there. All right, now we do have some people on the X. Who's watching us? 10 people, double digits. Okay, beautiful. Who's here? We got Danny McWilliams says, let's see. You can't hunt for better rates on a loan. You can't price your own property. There is no free speech. There is no lawyer-client privilege. Did I miss anything? No, that's New York. That's the state of New York. You got it. Fred says, this administration is pushing us, and it's going to get worse next year. They want someone to do something very bad, but don't fall for it. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely not. They want something to snap so they can blame everybody. Domainer says, great show. We got George in the house. What's up, George? George is sharing this from, it looks like an Alina clip. Teresa's over there. Cynthia says, that's not Liz Cheney. I know, CNN, some CNN person. George says, look what Trump was posting while you're hard at work. I don't understand how this kind of bias can go untouched. Another from Judge Engeron's wife, who's almost out of control. Wow, did she post that? Engeron's wife, Dawn Marie, posted that he'll never be in the White House again because Trump's headed for the big house. That's a Dawn Marie post, allegedly, that Trump found. Curious. We'll see what that unfurls tomorrow. And so, my friends, those are our comments over on X. If you'd like to follow us, you can. Rob Govea, ESQ. We do stream all of the things on the X account. And so come follow us over there. We also, if you'd like to join the Watching the Watchers community on X, this is what it looks like. So you can navigate over there and join the community. We're still waiting for Elon to tell us what to do with these things, but at least you'll be there. And so that, my friends, is going to be it for us on the day. We had one final join from Midnight Spirit. Welcome. Midnight Spirit is a new member on the YouTubes. And we'll be very looking forward to seeing you on the members only morning stream bright and early tomorrow. But my friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. YouTube friends, grab the Telegram link in the community tab section in YouTube, and we'll see you over there. We also would love it if you signed up for our daily newsletter that's available at robertgovea.com. We also have our show reports. PDFs get uploaded there. You can access the mind map there, and we're going to fix that link. But it's a great website with a lot of information there if you're looking to read some stuff. And so check it out, robertgovea.com, and sign up for our newsletter. We are going to wrap it up here. Shout out to our mods and our meme smiths who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly in the house. We've got, who's here? Donut Mind Me's here. I'm watching okay, YouTube says we have an excellent connection now. Hopefully it's okay. Donut Mind Me. We've got Dog Digger, Janek 909, John Allen is here, Zach Nichols, Beyond Geo, Zulu, our friend Ronnie, Playin' Hooky, Just Cause, K Bean, and our friend Vientica's Prime, modding down the fort for us, keeping things nice and orderly. Our Meme Smiths, Sleepy Dog Lee, Geegum Geegum, and of course Nathan N810, memeing the fort down for us. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. I'd love to see you there, but if not, that's all right. We are going to be back here tomorrow. It's going to be Thursday. And there's going to be a lot to get into, a lot of business to attend to, and we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a great night, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.